Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
And this time we're diving deep into a classic
Oh, yeah.
on writing well by William Zinsser.
One of the best.
Absolutely. It's one of those books that's like timeless. It's been around for decades, but it's still so relevant today.
Right.
Especially if you're,
Especially an entrepreneur.
especially for entrepreneurs.
Right.
I mean, this is like,
If you're listening to this
Yeah.
and you're building a business, you need to be able to communicate well.
this is the book. Yeah.
This is the book for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so Zinsser starts off with this really interesting concept.
Okay.
He calls writing a transaction.
Interesting. Yeah.
So when I first read that, I was like,
Mm.
a transaction? Like, what does that even mean?
It does sound a little,
Yeah, so it's kind of cold,
yeah.
but it's actually brilliant when you think about it.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So what he means is that every time you sit down to write something,
Okay.
whether it's an email,
Or a blog post or a pitch deck or whatever,
yeah,
you are essentially entering into this kind of exchange with your reader.
that's a great way to think about it.
You're offering them something.
Yeah.
Your ideas.
Yeah, your vision, your
Knowledge.
your passion.
Right. And in return, you're hoping to get something back from them.
All right.
You want their attention.
Love their time.
Yeah, their trust.
Their trust.
Yeah, their money eventually, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not just a one-way street.
Right.
It's about creating a connection
Yeah.
with the reader.
Like a conversation.
Right, like
Yeah.
a conversation.
Exactly.
And both sides have to feel like they're getting something out of it.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like any relationship, right?
Yeah.
You gotta
There's got to be that give and take.
give and take, give and take. Yeah, absolutely.
And so to illustrate this point, Zinsser uses
Okay.
this great example.
Right.
It's about a university president who wrote this very long, convoluted letter. Oh, I remember this one.
About campus unrest.
Yeah.
And it's full of jargon and like
Oh, yeah.
big words, and it's just
Convoluted, yeah.
really hard to follow.
Right.
And he contrasts that with President Roosevelt's
Yeah.
very plain-spoken response to a
Okay.
blackout order during the war.
I see.
And it's just night and day.
Yeah.
The difference,
Interesting.
one is just so clear
Yeah.
and concise, and the other's just like a headache.
Yeah. So it really shows the power of simplicity, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly
It's
it.
just getting to the point.
And especially as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
you need to be able to,
Yeah.
you're always
Get to the point.
competing for attention.
You don't have a lot of time.
I don't have a lot of time
You don't have a lot of time.
to get your message across, right?
You got to cut through the noise.
Yeah,
And so simplicity is really your best friend there.
totally agree.
And that kind of leads us to Zinsser's next big point, which is this idea of clutter.
The war on clutter. The war on clutter. Yes.
He hates clutter.
Oh, he hates it.
He's got a lot of funny examples in there
See.
of like just these phrases that people use
I know.
that are just so unnecessary.
It's like verbal gymnastics
It is. It is.
for no reason.
And it obscures meaning
Yeah.
instead of clarifying it.
Right.
Wow.
So what kind of clutter are we talking about?
Oh, like at this point in time, instead of just saying now or like using the word utilize,
Yeah.
when you could just say use,
Oh, yeah. Utilize is
It's such,
like a business buzzword.
it is.
It's like nails on a chalkboard for me.
Totally. Yeah.
So how do we get rid of this clutter?
It's funny. His advice is so simple,
Yeah.
but it's so powerful.
Yeah.
He just says, look at every word and ask yourself, is this word really adding anything?
Mm-hmm.
Is it adding meaning?
Yeah.
Is it contributing to the clarity?
Yeah.
Or is it just taking up space?
Yeah. And if it's not adding anything,
Get rid of it.
get rid of it.
Be ruthless.
Be ruthless. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so another point that Zinsser makes
Okay.
that I think is particularly interesting for entrepreneurs
All right.
is this idea of using the word I in your writing.
Interesting.
So a lot of people, especially in the business world,
Right.
they shy away from using I.
They think it's too
They think it's like
egotistical.
egotistical or unprofessional or
Yeah.
too personal or something.
Yeah.
But Zinsser actually argues that using I
Yeah.
can make your writing more engaging, more authentic, and even more trustworthy
Interesting.
because it shows that you're a real person,
Right.
that you stand behind what you're saying.
You're not hiding behind some corporate jargon.
Exactly.
You're like, hey, this
Yeah.
is me. This is what I believe.
Yeah, and I think that's really important
Yeah.
for entrepreneurs especially.
Especially.
Because you are your brand.
Right.
You
You're
know?
the face of your company.
Yeah. So people want to connect with you.
They want to know who they're doing business with.
Exactly. And they want to know that you're a real person.
Right. They want to trust you.
Who's passionate about what you're doing.
Exactly.
And using I can really help to convey that.
Totally.
So he gives the example of H.L. Mencken, who's a writer who was known for his very strong opinions and his
voice.
Yeah, his distinctive voice.
Yeah.
And he contrasts that with like the kind of writing you see in corporate brochures or like,
anonymous.
Yeah, anonymous kind of like reports and stuff.
No one wants to read.
And it's just, it's night and day.
Yeah.
One is just so much more engaging and interesting to read because you feel like you're actually hearing from a real person.
Like you're having a conversation with them.
And so I think as entrepreneurs, we can really learn from that.
Yeah, I think so too.
And not be afraid to inject our own personality.
Right.
And our own voice into our writing.
Right. Be yourself.
Be yourself.
Let your personality shine through.
Exactly. All right. So we've talked about transaction, the war on clutter, embracing the I.
Yeah.
What else is on the docket?
We're going to talk about word choice.
Oh, yeah.
Words are the building blocks.
That's right.
Of writing. Right.
Yeah.
And not all words are created equal.
That's for sure.
Some words are just more powerful than others.
They pack a punch.
They do.
So Zinsser encourages writers to be really deliberate
and intentional
and precise with their word choices.
Like you're a surgeon with a scalpel, right?
Yeah.
Like you're choosing
the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
And he talks about the importance of expanding your vocabulary. Reading, consulting dictionaries, and really understanding the nuances of language.
The connotations of words.
Because words have power.
They do, yeah.
You can evoke emotions.
Yeah.
They can create a certain tone or style.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really important to choose your words carefully.
Understand the impact that they have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he actually shares this really interesting anecdote about his time on the usage panel for the American Heritage Dictionary.
Oh, wow.
So he got to see firsthand
that's fascinating.
how language evolved.
Yeah.
And how new words are added.
Right.
And how old words take on new meanings.
Right.
And it's just this really fascinating glimpse into the living, breathing nature of language.
It's constantly changing.
It is.
Yeah.
It's constantly changing.
Which is cool, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that entrepreneurs can relate to, right?
Absolutely.
Because the business world is constantly changing.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be able to adapt.
You got to be flexible.
You got to be flexible.
Yeah.
And be willing to embrace new ideas.
Yeah. Right.
And new words.
And new words. Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right. So we've got writing as a transaction.
Okay.
We've got the war on clutter.
Right.
We've got embracing the I.
The power of I.
Power of I.
Yeah.
And we've got being intentional with our word choices. Precise.
Yes.
What else?
Wait, we got to talk about practice.
Oh, yeah.
Practice.
Yeah.
Nobody's born a great writer.
Right.
You got to put in the time.
Yeah.
It's a skill. It's a muscle.
It's a muscle.
You've got to exercise it.
That you have to develop.
Yeah.
And so Zinsser encourages writers to write regularly.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for
even if it's just like
5 minutes a day.
A journal entry.
Yeah.
Or a quick email.
Yeah.
Just get those words flowing.
Just get the words out.
Yeah. Keep that muscle working.
And the more you write,
the better you'll get. It's like anything else.
Yeah.
Practice makes perfect.
Or at least better?
Right. All right. And I love how he frames writing as this problem-solving process.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really interesting way to think about it.
Because it is, right. You're trying to figure out how to get your message across.
How to say what you want to say.
In the most effective way.
In the most effective way possible, yeah.
And so you're constantly having to make choices. About what words to use, how to structure your sentences.
To organize your thoughts.
How to organize your thoughts.
And to make it flow.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's really this...
It's a puzzle.
Yeah, it's a puzzle.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good analogy for entrepreneurship as well.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
You're constantly having to solve problems and figure out how to overcome obstacles.
Yeah, and make things work. Right.
So I think that's a really valuable skill to develop.
And I think it's something that entrepreneurs are naturally good at.
I think so too.
They're problem solvers.
They're problem solvers by nature.
Yeah. So I think that's a good...
So if you're
Yeah.
If you're an entrepreneur and you're listening to this
Yeah.
and you're thinking like, writing, like,
I hate writing.
I hate writing or I'm not good at writing.
Yeah.
Just remember that it is a skill.
It's a skill
that you can develop.
You can get better at it.
Yeah.
With practice.
And it's a valuable skill.
Yeah, it is.
To have.
Absolutely.
In any area of life, but especially in business.
Especially in business.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
But we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah. Zinsser has so much more.
Zinsser has so much wisdom to share.
To offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for part 2 of this deep dive.
Can't wait.
Where we'll delve into even more practical tips and insights from On Writing Well.
All right. See you then.
All right. See you then.
Bye.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. I'll see you in part 2.
All right.
See ya. All right. So we're back.
Back for more Zinsser.
More Zinsser.
Yeah.
So in part 1, we talked about some of the fundamental principles.
The foundation.
Yeah, the foundation of good writing.
Yeah.
Writing as a transaction.
Right. Yeah.
The war on clutter.
The importance of clarity.
Embracing the...
Being yourself.
Being yourself.
Yeah.
And being really intentional with your word choices.
Choosing those words carefully. Yeah.
So now we're going to dive into some more specific tips and strategies from the book.
All right.
That are especially relevant for entrepreneurs.
Practical stuff.
Yeah, practical stuff.
Yeah.
So let's start with leads.
Leads.
Because as an entrepreneur, you're always having to pitch something.
Right.
Whether it's your product or your service or
your company.
Your company itself.
Ourselves.
Right?
Yeah.
And you need to be able to hook people in right away.
You got to grab their attention.
You got to grab their attention.
Why make them want to hear more?
Because you only have a few seconds.
Yeah. In today's world.
To make a good first impression.
People are busy.
They're busy.
They're bombarded with information.
So how do we craft those killer leads?
Well, Zinsser talks about finding that unique angle.
Okay.
That little detail that sparks curiosity.
Okay.
That makes people go, tell me more.
Okay, I like that.
And he uses this great example from his own writing.
Okay.
It's the opening to an article he wrote about the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Now, you'd think an article about the Baseball Hall of Fame would start with, like,
Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth or some legendary moment.
Yeah, some iconic moment in baseball history.
Right.
But instead, he starts with something completely unexpected.
Okay.
Burley Grimes' slippery elm bark.
Slippery elm bark.
Slippery elm bark. And I was like, what?
Wait, I'm intrigued. What is this?
Tell me more.
Yeah, right.
So what's the deal with the slippery elm bark?
Well, apparently, Burley Grimes was a pitcher.
Okay.
Back in the day.
Okay.
And he used to keep this slippery elm bark in his pocket. And he would chew on it.
Okay.
To give his fingers a better grip on the baseball.
Oh, interesting.
So it's this little quirky detail that you wouldn't expect to find in an article about the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Right.
But it makes you curious.
It does.
It makes you want to keep reading.
Yeah.
To find out, like, what's the connection?
Yeah, like, where's he going with this?
Exactly.
And that's exactly what a good lead does.
Yeah. It sets the stage.
It creates intrigue.
It piques your interest.
It pulls you in.
It pulls you in.
And I think that's such a valuable lesson for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because you want your pitch to do the same thing.
Right. You want people to be leaning in. Like, okay, tell me more. I'm interested.
I want to hear what you have to say. So think about that when you're crafting your next pitch.
Yeah, find that hook.
Find that hook.
Yeah, that unexpected angle.
Yeah.
That makes people go, that's interesting.
Okay, so leads, super important.
Check.
What else?
What about interviews?
Oh, yeah.
Interviews are huge for entrepreneurs.
Especially if you're like,
just starting out.
You're doing market research. You're talking to potential customers.
You're trying to understand what people want.
Yeah, what their pain points are.
What their problems are.
How you can help them.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do we conduct those really effective interviews?
Yeah.
That get us the information we need?
Well, Zinsser talks about this a lot.
Okay.
And he emphasizes the importance of finding the human element.
Okay.
Even in topics that might seem dry or technical.
Right.
So instead of just asking like, factual questions, try to ask questions that elicit answers.
About what's most interesting or vivid in people's lives.
Okay.
What makes them passionate.
Yeah.
What keeps them up at night.
What are their stories?
Yeah, what are their stories?
Because ultimately, people connect with stories.
They do, yeah.
More than they connect with like data or facts or
Spreadsheets.
Spreadsheets, right?
Nobody wants to read a spreadsheet.
Nobody wants to read a spreadsheet.
No.
So if you can find a way to weave those human stories into your interviews,
Get personal.
You're going to get so much more valuable information.
Yeah. And people will be more willing to share.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they feel like they're being heard.
Like you actually care.
Yeah.
About what they have to say.
And that you're genuinely interested in them.
Right.
As a person.
Yeah. Not just a data point.
A data point, right.
Yeah.
So Zinsser, he gives this example of interviewing the curators of the New York Public Library.
Oh, wow.
And, a library, it can seem like a very static,
dark,
kind of boring place.
A little stuffy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But by focusing on the people who work there.
The human beings.
Their stories, their passions.
Yeah.
He was able to bring the library to life.
Yeah.
In this really fascinating way.
That's cool.
And so I think there's a lesson there for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think so too.
Which is that
find the people behind the product, the people behind the service.
Find the human connection.
Yeah.
And let those stories shine through.
Absolutely.
Because that's what people are going to connect with.
That's what they're going to remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got leads, we've got interviews.
Right.
What else?
Well, we got to talk about writing about places.
Okay.
Places are important. They can evoke emotions.
Yeah.
They can trigger memories.
Yeah.
They can transport you to a different time and place.
Right.
And so as an entrepreneur, you might need to write about your company's headquarters or the city where you launched your startup.
Or even just like that coffee shop where you had your big idea.
Exactly.
Right.
So how do you do that?
Yeah. How do you bring a place to life?
Well, Zinsser says it's all about finding those distinctive traits.
Okay.
The look, the feel,
Yeah.
the sounds, the people, the cultural assumptions.
Right.
He gives these great examples like Joan Didion's description of a Los Angeles neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
And John McPhee's writing about the Florida Everglades.
Those are two very different places.
Yeah, totally different.
But they're both
so vividly described.
Yeah.
You feel like you're there.
You feel like you're there. And so I think as entrepreneurs, we can learn from that.
Yeah.
And think about how we can use those same techniques to describe our own spaces.
Our own place.
And make them come alive for our audience.
Yeah.
Whether it's like our website or our social media or even just like a brochure or something.
Or an email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got leads, we've got interviews, we've got places. And you know what else is super important for entrepreneurs?
What's that?
Writing about yourself.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah. Can be a tough one.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to sound like you're bragging.
Right.
But you also want to be able to convey your expertise and your passion.
Their credibility.
Right.
Right. People should trust you.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do we strike that balance?
Well, Zinsser has some good advice on this.
Okay.
He says, focus on a specific period or event that was intense or meaningful.
Okay.
Rather than trying to capture your entire life story.
Okay.
So pick a thread from the tapestry of your life.
I like that.
Yeah.
Pick a thread.
Yeah.
The one that best represents who you are.
Right.
And what you stand for.
And tell that story.
Tell that story.
Yeah.
And he points to memoirs like Russell Baker's Growing Up and Eudora Welty's One Writer's Beginnings.
Yeah. Great books.
As examples of how to do this effectively.
Or to capture a specific time and place.
Yeah.
And reveal your unique voice.
Right.
And perspective.
And I think that's really important for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because your person's story
right.
is one of your most valuable assets.
It is.
It's what makes you different.
It's what makes you unique.
It's what makes you stand out from the crowd.
It's what makes you memorable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to share it.
Embrace your story.
Embrace your story.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about writing about yourself.
Okay.
Now let's talk about something that might not be as exciting.
Yeah.
But is still super important.
Right.
Business writing.
The dreaded business writing.
The dreaded business writing.
Yeah.
Nobody loves writing memos and reports.
Yeah.
But it's a necessary evil.
It is part of the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we make it less painful?
Well, Zinsser's main message here is to humanize your writing.
Okay.
So ditch the jargon.
Yeah.
Ditch the pomposity.
Get rid of all that stuffy corporate speak.
Yeah.
Write like you're talking to a real person.
Exactly.
Because you are.
You are.
You're writing to a real person.
Yeah, and treat them with respect.
Treat them with respect.
Be clear.
Be clear.
Be concise.
Be concise. Be yourself.
Be yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's business writing.
Business writing.
Now, what about when you have to explain something
Okay.
that's really technical or complicated?
That's a challenge.
Yeah.
For sure.
How do we do that without losing our audience?
Right.
In a sea of jargon.
Well, Zinsser has some good advice on this, too.
Okay.
He says it's all about building bridges from the complex to the familiar.
Okay.
So think analogies, metaphors. Find ways to relate what you're talking about to something that people already understand.
Yep.
So, for example,
if you're explaining a complicated algorithm, maybe you could compare it to, I don't know, like a sorting hat.
A sorting hat.
Yeah.
Like from Harry Potter.
Yeah, exactly. Like it takes all this data and it sorts it into different categories.
I like that. That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
So it makes it more relatable.
More understandable.
More understandable.
And more memorable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's technical writing.
Okay.
Now, this might seem like a bit of a curveball.
Okay.
But Zinsser also talks about sports writing.
Sports writing.
Sports writing.
Interesting.
And I know you might be thinking, what does sports writing have to do with business?
Yeah, good question.
But hear me out.
Okay, I'm listening.
Because good sports writing, it's vivid.
Yeah.
It's full of energy.
It's exciting.
It captures drama and emotion.
Right?
And those are qualities that can elevate any kind of writing.
I see what you mean.
Even business writing.
Yeah, you can make it more engaging, more exciting.
More exciting.
Yeah.
So think about that when you're writing your next marketing copy or your next pitch deck.
Find that energy.
Find that energy.
That excitement.
That drama. That drama.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got sports writing.
Sports writing.
Now, one last thing I want to touch on.
Okay.
Before we wrap up this part of the deep dive.
Right.
Writing about the arts.
The arts.
The arts.
Interesting.
So you might be thinking, what does writing about the arts have to do with business?
Good question.
But again, hear me out.
I'm all ears.
Because whether you're a tech entrepreneur, creating a cutting-edge music app, or a fashion designer, launching a new line, the ability to articulate your artistic vision in a compelling way is crucial for success.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
So how do we do that?
All right, I'm ready for part 3.
How do you take something that's so subjective, right, like art, and make it relatable to someone who might not be an art connoisseur?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, Zinsser, he talks about the importance of context and knowledge. He makes this distinction between critics and reviewers. You know, reviewers are more focused on just kind of reporting on what's out there, like what's new.
Yeah, like the surface level stuff.
Yeah, the surface level, just like here's what's happening in the industry. Whereas critics, they go deeper. They explore the artistic merits. They offer more nuanced perspectives. And he encourages critics to really familiarize themselves with the artist's work, the historical influences, the broader cultural landscape. So it's like you can't just judge a painting or a song in isolation.
Yeah, you got to understand, like,
where
it came from.
Yeah.
What inspired it, what the artist was trying to say.
Yeah, what the artist is trying to say.
And I think that's a really important lesson for entrepreneurs, too.
I agree.
Because you need to understand your market.
Absolutely.
You need to understand your competitors.
The trends.
The trends that are shaping your industry.
Yeah, your industry as a whole.
In order to be able to effectively position your product. Or service.
You've got to know what's going on
in
the world around you.
You got to do your research.
You got to do your research.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, so we've talked about context knowledge.
Okay.
Now let's talk about something a little bit lighter. Humor.
Humor.
You might not think humor has a place in the serious world of business.
Right.
But I think Zinsser would disagree.
I think so too.
Because a little bit of humor can go a long way.
It can...
In terms of...
It can break down barriers.
Yeah.
It can create a connection.
Yeah, it can make you more relatable.
It can make you more likable.
It can make people want to do business with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But writing humor is tricky.
It is. It is.
Not everyone has that natural comedic timing.
Right.
So what's the secret?
Well, Zinsser says to start with the truth.
Okay.
Find the absurdity in everyday situations.
Yeah.
The little ironies that make you chuckle.
Yeah.
And punch up, not down.
Punch up, not down.
Meaning, your humor should be directed at those in positions of power.
Okay.
Not at those who are vulnerable or marginalized.
Got it.
Yeah.
So use humor wisely.
Yeah.
But don't be afraid to use it.
Exactly.
Because it can be a really powerful tool.
It can.
So one last thing I want to emphasize from On Writing, before we wrap up this deep dive,
I'm ready.
Is this idea of trusting your material.
Oh, that's so important.
It is so important.
Yeah.
Whether you're writing about a personal experience, a scientific breakthrough,
a business transaction,
the business transaction,
whatever it is.
Believe in what you're writing about.
Yeah.
Let your passion shine through.
Let your authentic voice come through.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to connect with people.
People can tell when you're phoning it in.
They can.
Yeah.
So don't phone it in.
Be genuine.
Be genuine.
Be authentic.
Be yourself.
Be yourself.
All right. So as we wrap up this deep dive into On Writing Well, what's the big takeaway for our listeners?
The big takeaway, I would say,
especially those who are entrepreneurs.
Especially for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Is that good writing is about more than just grammar and mechanics.
Yes.
It's about clarity. Connection. Authenticity.
It's about finding your voice.
Yeah.
Trusting your material. Or telling your story. In a way that resonates with your audience.
Yes. And those are skills that will serve you well.
In every aspect of your business.
In every aspect of your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to quote Zinsser, he says, your product is you.
So true.
So invest in your writing.
Invest in yourself.
Yeah. Hone your skills.
Practice.
And let
your unique voice shine through. Because in the end, it's the power of your words that will determine your success.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
That's On Writing Well.
Our deep dive into On Writing Well.
By William Zinsser.
We've uncovered a treasure trove of insights.
So many practical tips.
And practical advice.
Yeah.
That you can start using today to make your writing more compelling, persuasive, and impactful.
Now go out there and write.
Go out there and write like you mean it.
Write like you mean it.
That's it for this deep dive.
See you next time.